You talked about getting to know your subject, hanging out. Sometimes takes a long time to get inside. Question, do audiences, do readers and viewers have a right to know a subject's intimate detail?
If it's relevant, I think, let's just take, we're in a political year, and there's an awful lot of, I don't have to tell you, you're a genius in this world of posturing, and you've been your whole career dealing with political people who tell you one thing and live another way, and what they say isn't what they believe, and what they say is not what they think.
Well, you use the word relevant, so it's relevant. Question, I want to take you back to your past.
Okay.
When President Kennedy, when he was running for president, many in the press knew details of his private life, which were at variance with the happy married life that was being created. And, you know, I covered that campaign, and I do not exclude myself from this criticism, but the rules of the road, the rules of the journalism road at the time is, that's not relevant. That's not something we report. Now, no candidate for president could expect that kind of thing not to be reported.
That's right, but there's a reason for that. And my opinion. Right. When I was starting off, men control what was newsworthy. My bosses were men, and their inclination was, their sensitivity was such that you could be a very, very fine political leader and have a mistress on the side. But they didn't think that having a mistress on the side, or having affairs, or having a series of glorious occasions in the middle of the night in hotels that shall be nameless with people who shall be nameless, that wasn't part of the story. The story was, what was their position on foreign policy? How did they feel about, you know, domestic spending, whatever it was. That was the story. Right. Now in journalism, the sensitivities of women on the staff of major newspapers brought a new perspective on what is newsworthy. I mean, in other words, the dalliances of political men, their girlfriends or their infidelities, their adulteries, offended these women who had jobs on major newspapers and in the networks as well. The decision makers today, we have, as I speak to you now, the top editor of the New York Times is a woman. Right. Unheard of when I was a young reporter, but now very much in the nature of things.
Very, very interesting point. I want to get back to new technology.
About which I know next to nothing, you understand, but I'll comment on it.
I don't understand that. Let's talk about it. Are you on Twitter?
No, I don't even know what that is.
Facebook?
No, I read it, I see it in the headlines. I'm just not interested. I'm sure it's an archaic, retro figure. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have me on this program. So out of it.
Corporate media, branding, into any of that?
I am into what I was into. I think you have to be there. I don't think there's any change. The technology is not going to change my notion that you have to be there. You have to see the people you're talking to. You have to be around the people you want to write about. You have to spend all this time. And you can't worry about bottom line or time saving. You see, so much of young journalism today, I suggest, or maybe it's young business, is being goal-oriented, time saving, budget consciousness.
True.
Is there an easier way to get from point A to point B without going the long way? Well, I go the long way because I think the long way brings you more in the long run, and that the cost of saving time isn't worth it if it gives you less than what you could get. Now this is not going to wash well with the accounting department in charge of the budget of some institution. They want you to get there fast, tape recorder, quick, boom, get in and out. Well, that's not good journalism.
Well, question, you're still a very active journalist. Do you worry that you're going to be cast as yesterday's man? What's the risk of people saying?
The risk is you're obsolete. The risk is you're out of it. The risk is you're past your prime, your time is gone. I don't care. I believe that old things last, and I think there's some messages, granted it's old, but they still are relevant today, and that is quality.
Does that include a market for quality journalism?
Oh, that's what I mean, most particularly. And I believe if it's really well made, if it's really constructed properly, if it has the resonance and the density and the form and the substance, of course, it will sell. And it will not only sell today, it will sell next year and 10 years. I believe there's something, not necessarily will I claim timelessness as the level of aspiration here, but I believe if you do things well, it will last. And I don't want to be boastful on your program, but I don't know how else to put it to you. The things that I write 20, 30 years ago are still in print. And whether I should be on Facebook or Twitter, I'm sorry, it's not of concern to me. My concern is when I turn this piece into the New Yorker, on Joe Girardi, just for example, that it's the best journalism, magazine writing of which I'm capable.
What about the argument, I've heard it increasingly over the last 15, 20 years, and particularly over the last 5 or 6 years, you must have heard it said, well, that may be true of longer form journalism, New Yorker pieces and books, but in daily journalism, that you can't concentrate on quality. That even the phrase quality journalism just isn't practical, it's not saleable, it's not supportable as a business model in today's world.
I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I believe that I don't believe I'm alone either. I believe there are young people, maybe not as many as I'd like, but there are young people that are watching us now on this television program who are believing that I'm making some sense. There are the others who care what I think. I'm just over the hill and don't know what's going on. That may be true too. Journalism today has strengths that were not so evident when I was young. The young journalists today are better educated. When I was a young journalist, we were of the underclass. That's one of the big distinctions, I think. We were the children, more often than not, of parents who did not go to college. Most of my colleagues, we were the first of our family to go to college. But we weren't going to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford. We were relatively unelite. So we brought to our journalism, Dan, a sense of being of the underclass. And we looked at the world, or the people we were talking about who represented the world in terms of newsworthiness. They were newsworthy people. They were the governor, they were the leader of the Senate, they were generals. And we would approach them as we were looking from the outside in to a world of privilege and power and affluence.
So true.
Today, the journalists who are working for the major institutions went to Harvard, went to Yale, they went to the people they're interviewing. If they were covering politics, they're probably living in the same part of Georgetown. They're probably swimming in the same pools, the same racket club. Their kids are going to the same private schools. The journalist today is well educated, but socially on a level of the people they're writing about. That wasn't true. We had, my generation, which is a post-World War II, we had a kind of skepticism of power. We didn't believe government. We would never have bought into this weapons of mass destruction in Washington in 2002 and 3 and 4, that awful journalistic, I mean, that class of journalism. The New York Times Bureau included bad class. I give all those people D's and F's for bad journalism and got us into this terrible war because of their lack of skepticism. They believe the Condoleezza Rices, they believe the Cheneys, they believe the Bushes. It's terrible. We were, and they are not today, skeptical. And there's not this class distinction, which I thought was healthy. But if, as you suggest, because of the technology, excuses are made because competition is based on speed, there's no excuse. I think journalism will go down in flames if that's the case.
Yeah,
thank you, Dan.
Very much.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking
it
time
too.
to do it. Thank you.